folks dropping by. But I do have to say, today is vegan royalty. I am over the moon to bring in my guest today, Richard Marx. We all know him, pop rock star. He really does define that. And Daisy Fuentes, I'll say supermodel, model, TV host, but really I want to say business props out to you because I think she's got brains and beauty all wrapped into one. Such an extraordinary businesswoman. Thank you both for being here.
Sure. Nice to see you.
So yes, I'll just quickly give everybody your accolades and then we'll get into what we really want to get into, which is
you don't have to be so quick about
it. Okay. Well, then let me read everybody because some of these statistics are pretty incredible. Truly, Richard, you do define what it means to be a rock star and a pop star. 30 million records worldwide. Of course, everybody knows Right Here Waiting for You, but many more songs beyond that. Your first 7 singles hit the top 5 on Billboard Hot 100, and you were the first person to ever do that. So pretty incredible. And then and platinum, Grammy Award winning. I mean, and decades now. You've been at it since 1987. So I think there's something there too to be successful for so long. Longevity and staying in this business is really hats off to you. But let me sort of say, Daisy. So I've got this from Daisy's Twitter feed, and she is all of these things. This is why we love her, everybody, because she's a powerhouse like all of us and doing so much. Model, mogul, TV personality, author, philanthropist, and hopeless romantic. Shout out advocate for peace, love, and animal rights. Really, you guys, you're awesome. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we're great. You're great. We know it. It's wonderful. But really what we want to know is
for ourselves.
Yeah. So you're recently married, I want to say 4 years or maybe 5 years at this point. I'm wondering, how did you meet? And were you already vegan when you met, or did you go vegan together?
Well, he was vegetarian when we met, and I was not. I was brought up, in a typical Latin American diet. No, and in fact, I grew up in Jersey, so I really didn't know anyone who was even vegetarian. So really, I moved out to LA, and then I started meeting people who were vegetarian or even, half vegetarian half the time. And it wasn't really until about the time that we met that I started being more exposed, which was really, I really started hearing about it maybe about 10, 15 years ago. People started talking about vegetarian. And then by the time we met, about 6, 7 years ago, you were vegetarian.
Yeah, I had been for a long time. I remember when we had the first conversation about it, and on one of our first dates, because, we went to dinner and Daisy notices everything. Daisy is very aware of everything. And I think it was maybe by the second or third dinner, she noticed that I never, ever had any kind of meat product. And she said, "Are you vegetarian or vegan?" And I said, "Well, I actually stopped eating red meat when I was 18. And we had this whole conversation. And I was kind of waiting for this sort of tough Jersey chick to be like, "Really?" But she was like, "That's interesting. Like, what made you?" So she's always been, even though she had not adopted that for herself, she was never one of the mocking people about it. She was always just curious about it. And like, what made you decide that? And so little by little, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I remember you saying really early on, I really want to eat less animal products. I want to. So I think it was something that was already in her mind.
Yeah, by that point, I was already really curious about the health aspects of it. I was already reading a lot, and I had already heard a lot, enough to get me curious about, what's going on. Why are there so many reports, and why so many writings and so many medical journals? Enough to pique my interest.
And when you did this, did you find that it was something you could do together? So Richard was already vegan at that point, or at least vegetarian, not 100% vegan. So you had that switch there. And Daisy, you were curious about it. I wonder if you have any tips for couples that are thinking of going vegan together and how they can kind of make that fun and make the transition happen.
I think that what helped us is that we both became more curious about it, where we started reading some things, and then, I think something happens where you know that you're curious and you don't want to take that extra step because you know that if you do, that there are certain things that if you watch those documentaries, you know that you can't unsee them. You know? So
There's no going back.
Right. So it took a minute, but we were like, come on, we got to see it. We were ready. We were just ready. And once we watched one, we opened the floodgate.
Yeah.
And we wanted to see more. At that point, we were like, why didn't we know about this? Why don't more people know about this? We need more. At that point, we couldn't get enough information. We wanted to get more information. And then we kind of made the typical amateur mistake of like, oh my God, everybody needs to know about this. And we told everybody. And then
hi, I'm Richard. Did I mention that I'm
oh my God, have you seen this? You need to know about this. And then we kind of annoyed the shit out of people.
It took about a year for us to just sort of
we had to kind of go, okay,
back that off and just be like, you know, live and let live, because we are very libertarian in our we're not militant vegans that way. You know, we like to just sort of throw out, especially when we find somebody, when we meet someone, or we're even people that we've known for a long time, and we see that they're curious, that they're genuinely, just like she was sort of curious when we started talking about it, and this is before I was vegan. We do love, like with many other topics, we love to sort of just inform people about what we've learned and why it works for us. But there's no shaming or, you know,
it doesn't work.
We both really hate it.
Right. What does bother me is the misinformation. When somebody comes at me with misinformation, I like saying, oh, no, that's wrong. What the actual correct information is this. That I feel like a responsibility to do. But yeah, a lot of people are not ready to hear everything, and they do get very confrontational. So I found that we needed to hold back, but we weren't coming from a place of you know, shaming, bossiness.
Yeah.
I was coming from a place of, oh my God, I found out amazing information. It's so good. I want everybody to know about it. Like, it's life-saving. It's great for the planet. It's great for the animals. I didn't know about it, and I want you to know. I was coming from a great place, and people were taking it from in a different way.
It's tricky business, because I know what you're saying. You come from this great source of joy. Like, how many times in life does one solution fix so many problems? It's one thing for people and their health. It's one thing for our finances and Medicare, Medicaid. It's one thing for the environment and the future of the planet. It's one thing for animals. It's all the same thing. I mean, how great is that? And so you just want to share it with everybody, but the audience has to be ready.
Yeah. And then there's also the part of, oh my God, they've been lying to us about this forever. There's all this information about, you know, this. It's like, oh my God, follow the money. This is all about propaganda. This is all about you guys. You gotta, and they don't want to hear it.
No. So maybe you can give, and tips is my favorite thing to say in this interview, but maybe you can give us some tips about, okay, so you're a vegan couple, you've gone vegan. It's a passion now. It's something you share, like surfing, playing tennis, and being vegan. I mean, you know, it's something you share as a couple. So how would you recommend to other couples to get the word out? Because I think everybody has that immediate sense of joy. And then what should they not do?
Oh, that's a good question. I think to just avoid a lecturing sort of rhetoric. You know, if you tell somebody what they should be doing, or what they should be eating, or what they should not be doing or should not be eating, it's going to be very difficult to not come off as lectury and confrontational. Whereas if you kind of just go, just what we were just talking about, if you start telling people about, have you guys tried the Impossible Burger? Holy shit, it's the greatest thing ever. Or I love to tell the stories of the friends of mine who are lifetime burger freaks, who, when I've introduced them to the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger, but personally my favorite is the Impossible Burger, and how they've gone, I'll eat this every day. I don't ever need to go back to eating burgers because there's nothing missing.
Right.
I think it's things like that. I think that one tip is to just, as you would with friends where you go, we saw the greatest play, or we read the greatest book. Well, it's the same kind of thing. It's like we discovered this thing that we're really excited about. It's just conversational. And people who are open and people who are kind people are going to go, well, tell me more about it. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
I think that's
I also think it's about leading by example. It's just do it the best that you can, and people will watch. People will see how you live, and they'll be inspired by what you do, what you eat, and your lifestyle. And once they see that it's not difficult, I always like to say, it's not what you can't have. People will ask me, well, what do you miss the most? And it's kind of like, well, I don't miss anything, because not only have I replaced all the flavors that I love, but I have discovered an array of foods that I didn't even know existed before. So I've discovered so many spices and flavors and foods, and
why was nutritional yeast not in my life?
Ever.
Why? Yes, I feel gypped because of this.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you're saying. So when you live by example, I mean, when I went vegan, I shed a little bit of weight. Woohoo. I got an extra boost of energy. Okay, I'll take it. But then I hadn't realized how my actions weren't aligned with my values, because it's never been in line with my values to not be kind to animals. And I hadn't realized how that disconnection was holding me back in my life. So not only did I feel better and I had more energy, and I think you live by example and you show that happiness and that joy, I got this like, oh gosh, I'm not carrying a weight anymore that was holding me back. And that was a biggie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like you've discovered something about yourself.
Yes.
Like you've completed a little piece of the puzzle of your life.
I love that. You've completed the puzzle of your life. I love that, because finally I was in alignment, and I hadn't realized that I hadn't been in alignment before. And it was a deterrent for me. But what you're saying about sort of bringing people into the fold, I know you're going to relate to this, Daisy. I always think, well, food. I'm Sicilian. I love to cook for people. So I'll make you Italian stuffed peppers. I'll make you Italian stuffed beef. I'll make you lasagna. I can make it all vegan. And I'm sure, Daisy, you probably make Cuban food left and right.
Yes, and Spanish food. And I find that, I tell people, I think that people are so used to, they feel like if meat is not on the plate, it's not a meal. And when you really think about it, meat on its own is not flavorful. What really makes it delicious is all the seasonings and sauces and spices that you put around it. When you really think about that, that's what it's about. It's all the flavors of all of the ethnicities that we love. And especially when you think about Indian food, Mediterranean food, Cuban food, Spanish food, you can recreate all those. Those are all plant-based.
Yes. Oh, I love what you're saying, because everybody thinks it's the meat, but the meat itself has no taste. It's the spices.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
A little shout out here, people. Cumin, paprika, and soy sauce. Put that together, marinate your seitan. You're already off to a great start. You're like halfway to beefland. Daisy, I don't know if you would do this. We can catch up on it later. But if you'd like to cook with me, there is a show on this program, Lunch Break Live. I'd love to do some. I don't have Cuban Spanish under my belt. I've got Italian. So if you want to share your world of cooking, I'm all about it. Okay, so we'll connect on that. Yeah. Well, so you guys share your lives really publicly. We see you on Instagram, and there's a wonderful video on Richard Marx at richardmarx.com. Front row seat is the video, and Daisy's in it looking stunning, and Richard's singing. So, we're all enveloped in what's going on. And then your pit bull makes an appearance, Betty Davis. Oh my gosh, how I love her. Maybe we can, oh my gosh, where is she? Oh, puppy, come on. Look. Oh my, oh my God. So thank you for rescuing God, I love pit bulls. I love pit bulls. Thank you for rescuing pit bulls. But yes, right down to your dogs. Your lives are very public. And so you show us that Daisy travels with you, Richard, I think 10 months out of the year. Right now you're on the Limitless tour. Well, before COVID, you were on the Limitless tour.
I'm on the Housebound tour now.
Yeah.
Yes. How's that going?
Good.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's definitely an adjustment. I'm a lifelong gypsy and somebody who's always, especially the last 5 or 6 years, doing, I think last year I did about 75 shows, and I had another, I think 80 shows that would have happened by the end of the year. And it's definitely an adjustment, but we're seeing the silver linings in all of it. It's very different circumstances for us than a lot of other people. And so we're so grateful that we're going through this particular time, together.
Yes.
There are people who are together who would rather be with anybody but who they're with.
Yes, right. I feel that way with my boyfriend as well. I'm so happy that we're together. And I know for some couples it's really hard, but for us it's a joy. We finally get time together.
Yeah. So we're really, really savoring every day that we can just sort of hang out and be. And she does travel with me a lot when I'm touring, when she can. But, it is like, it's a constant, like sometimes she'll look at me and she'll go, dude, I don't know how you do this, like constantly. Because it is a different town every day, and it's living out of a suitcase. And
gosh.
The eating when we're traveling gets a little tricky sometimes. And because why? Sometimes we'll be in the most obscure little town in the middle of nowhere, and we'll think, okay, it's martinis and French fries for dinner. And we're surprised by some little restaurant who will have the most amazing vegan menu, and we're shocked. And then you go to some really progressive city that has nothing.
Yeah.
And it's martinis and French fries.
And I really feel, Elizabeth and I were talking about this because she splits her time between LA and Chicago. And I, was born and raised in Chicago, so that's my hometown. So I feel like I can say whatever I want. And there are many things I do like about the city, but I think that Chicago is way behind the curve. They have been. I think they're starting to catch up. There is some good plant-based, good plant-based restaurants there, but for the most part, it's like cities like that. You would think, come on,
come on.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I will give a shout out here to Chicago. So there's a restaurant, Kitchen 17, and they've had to reinvent themselves, of course, during COVID, and it's very tricky times for them. And they do a deep dish Chicago pizza, and they've decided to deliver it to 32 states out of 50. And delivery. Yes. So if you want to give people a little bit of Chicago, Richard, since we're both from Chicago, I've been sending people Chicago deep dish vegan pizza.
There you go, Kitchen 17.
Yes.
Way to go, Kitchen 17.
Yeah. I just told you about that this morning.
So do you guys have any tips for you're on the road and, you might come to French fries and martinis again. And if you don't want French fries and martinis, just in the off chance, do you pack your own snacks, or are you a happy cow all the time? Like, how do you handle veganism and traveling?
Very happy cow for sure. Mm-hmm. You don't really pack stuff. I always have like vegan protein bars and.
I started sending him away with the a little NutriBullet. And some protein, powder, and then you've been finding some fruit. Well, he'll have some fresh fruit at the hotel rooms when he gets there, and he's been making some nice smoothies, which is really good just to get your helps.
Your vitamins and your
just your fresh veggies in.
Yeah, but you know what, Elizabeth? That's one of the many amazing things about what I do. And especially in the era of social media, I've found, especially in the last, I'd say 2 years, almost every city that I go to, and I play everything from major cities to little towns in the middle of nowhere, right? My tour manager, Sam, will get calls, or the promoter or the people that are in charge of the venues where I'm playing will say, this person saw on social media that Richard's playing here, and they wanted him to know that there's this great vegan restaurant that will deliver backstage, or I have, I'll get to the venue, and in the dressing room there will already be like a box of vegan muffins or something from some cool place down the street, or
there'll be some restaurant that isn't really a vegan restaurant, but the chef will say, hey, I have this amazing vegan meal I want to cook for you, and it always turns out to be amazing. So it's really sweet, and we'll get like little gift baskets with little gift things that people will make us, like cookies or cakes.
In fact, right before the lockdown happened, the last run of shows I did, one of them was in New Hampshire, and Daisy was with me the first time I played there about 1.5 years ago, but she was not with me on the last run. And so I had a friend and his wife as my guests at the show and backstage, and they were going to have dinner with me after the show. There was a guy there because there was a restaurant attached to the venue, proper theater, but next door there was a restaurant that sort of catered to the venue. And the chef there had no experience really with plant-based cooking, but he was an excellent chef, and he was so excited to create a menu for me.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if you don't like it, I'll send out to Chipotle for you or whatever. But he said, I'd like to try to make, and so he gave me this list of stuff he was going to try, and it was fantastic. And it really was a big boost for him too, because he said, I'm going to start incorporating plant-based food into my regular job, into my regular work. I was his guinea pig, and it was outstanding.
So I love this. Sometimes I feel like turning the tables a little bit on the chefs, because I no longer really go to vegan restaurants because of my personality and how I have this show. I like to go to non-vegan restaurants and say, hey, what do you have that's vegan? Oh, could you please start considering having more vegan options? And then I had a business card made up, and it's got my awesome Vegans Influencer series on the front, and on the back it says consultant to chefs and restaurants, because I love to help people with their menus. I love to cook. Then I can leave my card, and I, pay and tip and whatever. And then I leave my card and say, I'll help you with vegan options if you want, because I really want to get people thinking about it. Because in a way, I feel just like Daisy was saying earlier, oh my gosh, when I ate meat and dairy, it was like ham and cheese sandwiches all the time. And I hadn't realized, sounds silly now, but eggplant, asparagus, sweet potatoes, these were things I weren't working into my life. And so now I sort of feel like, oh, come on, now you're a chef. If you're really a good chef, you got to get your veggies down like a real, because what's there to cooking meat? Kerpow, flash pan and serve. Like, no, you want to show your skills. You get savvy with vegetables, my friend.
I'm shocked at how many chefs don't know how to cook veggies.
Yeah, we talk about those.
Yep. Okay, so Daisy, you and I are going on tour. Richard, you can sing. Daisy and I are going on tour. We're going to follow behind you, and we'll just do the caboose with all the restaurants to make sure they're on board.
Love it.
Okay, so you are ultimately on tour because of your songs and your writing. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your writing process, and I'm just putting a little birdie in your ear. If you'd ever write a vegan song, or a song about vegan, or about a song about discovering the journey, it doesn't have to be outright vegan, but doesn't have to use that word, but maybe about the discovery process of your journey, or just a thought.
I honestly can't imagine ever wanting to do that, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Would you disguise it as something else?
Maybe maybe a line here or there that I knew was related to that, but I'm first of all, and I know I'm really in the minority on this. I've never been a fan of these sort of anthemic, let's all be like,
I see.
That's great, and I love that those songs permeate the consciousness, and from We Are the World on down. That's great, but
We Are the World.
Not songs that
Richard writes songs about let's do it.
Is that like in general or specific to? Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Interview takes a turn.
It's not an accident that a lot of people conceived to music that I made.
Yeah.
That was sort of my intention. I like songs that are, as a listener, I like songs that make me feel something emotionally, and I don't, for the most part, I don't find those kind of songs touch me that way because they feel contrived. And so I can't imagine that I would do that. However, it's great to find, like I'm asked to perform at animal rights events and vegan events all the time. And I like when certain songs of mine translate to that, There's a song I wrote.
Which one did you do for Gentle Barn that was really sweet? You did
Ready to Fly, and I did this song that I wrote with Keith Urban, that Keith Urban made into a big hit years ago, called Everybody, and the hook is everybody needs somebody sometimes. And
oh, sure.
For rescue, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's sort of, the songs like that sometimes translate to all different kinds of issues and events, but.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I wasn't really thinking so much thematically, but more, like Come to My Window, Melissa Etheridge ended up being something for right. a different movement, let's say. And so I don't know, there's so much, I just found for me that my path to veganism was such a discovery. And here I grew up on meat and dairy, an Italian household, and I really thought the world looked like this. And then I shifted my way of seeing, and I found out that the world looked like that.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting discovery process for me. But I don't have any Grammys, so I really can't advise you. I will leave it to you to be the expert.
One thing I could look forward to is for the people who just keep denying, even attempting a shift to a plant-based diet, who might have some, hopefully not major health issues, but down the road, I could always just sing "Should Have Known Better."
Okay. Well, keep it in your repertoire. I love that.
Keep it handy.
Well, so do you guys get any resistance, like in your crowd or your life? Do you find that people push back on you, maybe your parents even, or somewhere in that? Tell me a little bit about that and how you traverse that controversy.
Well, you know, my mom always
Even now.
yeah, she would say, "Oh, here, try this," and I'll be like, "No, I don't want that. I'm not eating that." And she's like, "Oh, you're still doing that?" Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still doing that. I'm going to continue doing that.
You're still not smoking?
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, you're still doing that thing?" Yes, I am. And she'll forget until then, like 2 days later, she'll be eating something and go, "Here, try. Oh, here, have some." I'll be like, "No, still doing that."
Well, it's funny because I would think that she would think, I mean, really for both of what you do, you know, you're still, I think, modeling in some ways in your life, Daisy. And then Richard, it's almost like a sport to be on stage and to go from city to city. You have to be in great shape. And both of you are in your 50s looking incredible as if you were a solid decade younger. I mean, I would think with this in mind, people would want to be following that lifestyle, or at least understand that for you guys, health is really critical. I mean, it is for all of us, but particularly for your businesses. So.
I think especially, and this is the really difficult part for me, for our parents, for the older people in our lives, you know, people our age, for anyone, when you really start looking at health, especially as you age. You know, I always say that when I was younger, I would look at exercising and eating and dieting from a vanity standpoint just because I wanted to look good and fit.
It's a good motivator.
It was a good motivator. And
Sure.
as I got older and I look at anti-aging and health, I do it still for vanity, but more for longevity, because as I get older and I look at the pattern of aging and the problems that everyone has as they get older into their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And now we're living longer than ever, but we still have the same chronic illness. We're still having surgeries and going into the hospital, the same kind of illnesses that everyone has ever had. And it comes from the foods that we're eating.
Yes.
So I'm thinking to myself, why would I not want to change that? Why do I want to wait until I get sick to change that? And then I'm seeing people who I love who are now starting to develop those same problems, those same issues. And they can't, their minds won't open enough to see the obvious problems. And that is something that I have such a problem with. I struggle to say, you know what, you got to let it go. It is not your you've explained it as much as you can.
Yeah.
It is their life. It's their journey. If they see it, they see it. And if they don't, they don't. And that's a real struggle for me, because the information is out there. The evidence is out there. And some people just don't want to see it. Some people cannot change their lifestyle enough to save their own lives.
I also think one thing I would add to that I don't know if I've ever really thought about it this way. I think that maybe some of the resistance or the pushback that you mentioned is frankly from people who look at celebrities or higher profile people who are vegan, and they think that, oh, well, it's easy for them because they're wealthy, or they have private chefs, or they go to private gyms, well, I understand that might be something that they would assume, but it couldn't be further from the truth. And we don't have a private chef. Our fitness, we're both pretty fit because we go outside and hike. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
The ways that we are youthful and trying to fight aging and from the inside out, and the ways that we are, I mean, with the exception of, we do eat strictly organic food. And so there is
for the most part, when it's available.
When you look at,
travel,
when you look at the studies, the price difference is really not significant. And it's, other than that, I think that the word that sort of needs to get out is that you don't have to be wealthy or successful to do the things that we are doing.
And what costs more, a piece of steak or rice and beans and some veggies?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
What costs more, to maybe spend a little bit more for organic now, or your doctor bills in the future?
Exactly.
This is what I always say. It's so expensive to be sick. So a lifetime of pills to lower your cholesterol, I mean, that's going to be extremely expensive in addition to all the visits and the care and the extra hassle. Plus, you're not really getting more out of your life. Right. You're still hampered with what you've got. You haven't fixed it. You've just masked it. So
one need only to look at Forks Over Knives or Eating You Alive, any number of the great documentaries to go for the light bulb to go off, especially people who are fighting some chronic disease. If they knew that they could reverse and eliminate some, if not all of their chronic illness, simply by changing their diet, I think they would do it.
I also think it's important to remind people that it's not an all or nothing thing, because I think it can be very intimidating.
It was gradual for us.
When you see people like us and we're so excited about this and we're just like, oh yeah, we've cut out all dairy and all meat, and you don't have to do that from the beginning.
Yeah, we didn't do it overnight.
It's important to know that, there are some militant people out there who say you have to go to this from one day to the next. And it's really important to know that everybody has their own journey and that you can ease into this, and that every step that you take along the way counts and it's important for you. And if you're doing meatless Mondays right now, then do meatless Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the more that you do, the better it is for yourself. And if you want to be vegan 98% of the time, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Every little bit
if
helps.
You want to be vegan and one time you want to have pizza with cheese on it, then that's okay. That doesn't make you a horrible person. It's part of your transition. The time will come when you will feel it's right for you to completely take that step, and for some people it takes a week, for some people it takes a month, for some people it takes a year. Do it at your own pace. And I think it's important for people to know that.
Yes, I totally agree. So we're all on this journey, and the journey has a different pace for each of us. Yeah. And very rarely in life is everything 100% or zero or black and white. Yeah. Usually it's some sort of, for me, I am 100% vegan. It's just what when I got all those benefits, why would I suddenly not want the benefits? I want them. They're good. They're good to me. So for me, it's that's where I am now, but I didn't start out that way. And so everybody just kind of does what they do, and anything helps. I love that Richard said that, and Daisy did too. Anything helps. You just make the progress you can make for you. The rest follows. And there's some benefits to aging, actually, I think, when we talk about this kind of stuff. Basically what we're talking about, and I didn't know this when I was in my 20s and my 30s, but cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a little bit of love. Go at the pace you can go. Have a little patience with yourself, but keep your eye on the prize. It's one foot in front of the other. Just get there. Get there for a better existence for yourself. And then that flows to other people because you live by example, and people see like, well, gosh, they're healthy and happy. That's pretty good. Okay, but you can be a junk food vegan, and I've had those days myself. So as we talk about aging backwards, you mentioned that phrase, Daisy, and I do love that phrase. Certainly try to do it myself. What are your healthy tips in the vegan world? So how do you guys try to stay on the healthy vegan side?
Well, this has been an interesting period of time, and we talked about this last night. Mm-hmm. We're both, I'm not sure if it makes sense to me. Because when you go out to restaurants, and we do love to go out to eat. So that has become eliminated. It's great that Daisy's a great cook for sure, but she's making less amounts of food. We're really only eating one meal a day.
Wow.
Yeah, what we've been finding is that we wake up, and I've been doing this intermittent fasting. We get kind of busy in the morning, so we'll have a couple of great cups of coffee. We drink a lot of water. Sometimes we'll make a smoothie in the afternoon. We go out and we just start walking. We get caught up in it. We won't have our first real kind of snack or light lunch until the afternoon.
And sometimes not even until
and
dinner.
then we'll just have a nice dinner and, you know, a glass of wine or a little tequila. And we're finding that we're eating a lot less, but we're really satisfied because we're having like a really great, satisfying dinner, or we'll have like this really great, satisfying lunch, like a really great sandwich and a salad, or, you know.
And also, no matter where you go to eat,
hungry.
no matter what restaurant, and there are some restaurants in Los Angeles that we love, but if you make your favorite dishes at a restaurant at home, you realize what they're putting in that they don't need to put in.
Yes, lots of oil.
Incredibly
and
delicious.
Butter and things that you don't even know are in there.
So when she cooks, you know, she makes me dinner every night, and it's amazing. But I know that what I'm consuming is the healthiest it can possibly be. All the ingredients are the freshest and healthiest.
Yeah. Even I'm still putting olive oil. I am still putting olive oil, and I am still using vegan butter, but I'm using so much less. Yeah, and so it is so much healthier. We feel, I can see it in my skin. I can see it in my gut, like I'm less bloated. I can see the difference from cooking at home and going out to restaurants. So it does make a difference, and that is a great tip.
And this is the perfect time to experiment, because you
make your own food more
often.
often.
To go.
Yes, I love that you say that, because this is, I don't want to say that, let me rephrase. This station, Jane Unchained, and of course myself, Elizabeth Alfano, on the Awesome Vegans Influencer Series, anyone who is suffering, who has lost their job, who is affected by COVID, my heart is with you. And these are awful times. But I am finding that people are cooking at home. And I wouldn't say it's a silver lining, but I think it's wonderful to see people reconnect with their food. And that's been, I'll say, an issue for Americans. They maybe don't even know where their food comes from anymore. Many children say they don't even know that chicken nuggets are actually from a living entity. I mean, that just tells you how far removed we are. So that is one thing for your health, but also, you know, I find, because I love to cook, just like Daisy, I find nothing de-stresses me like chopping vegetables. Yeah. So, you know, there's some benefits there.
Very therapeutic. You're right. I mean, Daisy, we always have music on, and Daisy,
me too.
Sort of, she gets lost in the process, and it's very meditative.
One thing I started doing from this whole self-quarantine thing, I started ordering some meals from Purple Carrot. So great. Send you the box, the whole kit, and I've done some of the recipes, and I've learned these new recipes. So now, and I've even altered some of them to kind of add my own kind of touches. And I think it's great in that way, where you can learn some new recipes. And now I have them in my head, and I have, you know, a whole new
repertoire. You too has a repertoire.
Totally.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I like cooking at home so much, because it does relax me, and it's healthier, but it's also, I get to feel like I show my creative side. And it's really fun to see, don't know exactly how it's going to shake out. So it's always a little bit of a surprise at the end.
I was a little intimidated by Indian cooking. I love Indian food, but the spices, it's like a whole different world in itself. So I started learning about Indian spices little by little, and now I'm fascinated by it. I love it.
Okay, so I am following up with you. Everybody, Daisy and I are going to be back to do some cooking for all y'all, so that'll be really fun. Well, you've been so gracious with your time here, and I am so grateful just that you are willing to talk about it. And, I think that does influence others, and you do lead by example. So thank you for that, and for caring about animals in general, and bringing those issues to the forefront. So I have a couple exit questions. Some of them are more pensive, and some of them are just the one-word answers. So all vegans think that the world is going vegan tomorrow, but I'm wondering if you have any predictions about where we're going, and maybe specifically not just are we going vegan? We all kind of think that we are, but maybe even more specific in that, like, when do you think it will come, or what do you think will be a big turning point I feel like we're sort of at a tipping point, but when do you think it's really going to go? What are your predictions?
Well, I think that in the last year, that a huge game changer has been the Impossible Burger and the meat substitutes, which are providing the comfort food or the sort of habit food of non-vegans. Where they can go, wow, you know what? I don't have to sacrifice flavor and taste, and I don't have to give up the things that I love, but I'm going to eat these substitutes, which are delicious. It's not like you're sacrificing. So I think that the more of that we see, and more importantly, the better versions, the more flavorful.
Yes.
There have been egg substitutes for trying for a few years. And when I think Just Egg, which is a product,
I love them.
Yeah, that's a game changer too.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for companies like that, if they can, to bring prices down a little bit, because I think it does intimidate a lot of people who would love that product, but it's just really expensive. But I think that the more of those kind of things, I could see a major change within 3 years.
I think more options become available, more mainstream, the better and easier it'll be, because at that point, people who don't consider themselves vegan will make those choices more often. So it'll become easier. I also think that bringing the awareness of what's happening in the rest of the world, these atrocities that are happening, even what happened with COVID-19, where it allegedly came from. We're pretty sure by now that it did transfer from animal to human, from the wet markets, and a lot of the other viruses also transferred from animal to human. And a lot of us are completely repulsed, and we cannot believe that this happened in all these other parts of the world, including the animal, the dog and cat meat markets that are happening. We're completely, we cannot believe that this is happening. When you turn that around and say, well, how can you be completely repulsed by that, and so just have your mind blown by that, and not realize that we are doing the same thing, that you yourself are eating, and why are you picking and choosing between which animals it's okay to do that with, when you're doing that to sentient beings as well? And more you're highlighting that, people are becoming more and more aware. And I think that this whole thing with coronavirus may have been a little bit more of a tipping point to make people a bit more aware.
It's one of the things that I also do. I have a sister show called the Plant-Based Business Hour, and I started it in COVID times because I'm at home and I can, but also because I wanted to help people make the connection between eating meat and where we are today. It may seem like a step for some people, but mad cow disease came from cows. It's not some funky wet market way over there in a dark alley. SARS, this came from birds, and we have a SARS outbreak right now in North Carolina. A bird flu outbreak right now in North Carolina, a bird flu outbreak in China that is raging, as well as in Germany. Swine fever is causing problems in China and all around the world. So Ebola, these are all meat-borne pandemics. So when we get, to your other point about when you have more products out there that are plant-based, when we support more plant-based options, these smaller companies can grow. So we'll have more than Impossible and more than Beyond, because we do need more than those two to feed the world, to go to plant-based products. When we support these small businesses, and when investors come in, so that's why I do the Plant-Based Business Hour, so investors can learn about these other small companies. They can get in, cha-ching, cha-ching, make a lot of money. And the more plant-based options we have, the more we have a secure and safe future, because we have a secure and safe food supply. I will not lecture. I will stop right now, because we said we wouldn't in the beginning. So
there are many options. There are a lot of companies, and even big meat suppliers like Tyson buying plant-based food companies now, and so this is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's definitely important for the food industry as a whole to start working together.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. So please, investors and small entrepreneurs, be you plant-based or not, please watch my show, The Plant-Based Business Hour. Okay, so you're going to want to say, I wish veganism was what I knew about, but try to think what else you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now.
Within the vegan.
Well, most people say I wish I knew more about, I wish I had gone vegan 10 years ago. That's how people usually answer the question. But I'm wondering if there's something else that you wish you knew 10 years ago. It's meant to be a little bit of inspiration for people in the plant-based world or not. What you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now.
I know for me, I'll do it really quickly, and it'll probably be hers too. I wish I knew where my food was coming from.
Yes.
Really knew where it was coming from.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a horror for most people when
Oh.
they find out.
Those were all the game changers for me. You know, I mean, even before, way before I met Daisy, I mean, years before I met Daisy, I saw Food Inc.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it for me. I mean, it was sort of like, it was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? This is just disgusting, you know?
I wish I knew where my clothes were coming from.
Mm.
Oh, tell me more.
I've always been a fashion girl. I love fashion, you know, and
Well, you know where the clothes you create come from.
Yeah.
And you've been a real activist in that way.
Yes,
as well.
but the clothes I was making 10 years ago, I was using some leathers.
Right.
I was using some skins, and I wasn't even aware of it. I had no idea. Like it wasn't even a thought. And the minute that I became aware, the minute you see it, I stopped it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a fashion girl, and I considered myself a kind person. And many of us do. Many of us people in fashion consider ourselves a kind person, and we don't make the connection, you know. And you have a rug at home, or you're wearing a coat, and you don't realize what the filling is, and you don't realize what the trim is, and you don't realize what you're wearing, you don't realize what you're buying. There is such a disconnect.
It's very unconscious.
And you can be somewhat aware of what you're eating. Like you can say to yourself, oh, pate, and certain things, or I'm aware of certain things, and you have a complete disconnect to what you're buying and wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I became aware at a certain point, can I be a fashion girl and still be a kind person? Or do I have to wear, do I have to dress like a complete hippie? Can I still do the things that I look the way I want to look? Do I have to completely change who I am? And that became a little bit of a struggle for me.
One of the things that I find is that for me, I'll speak for myself, when I started aligning my purchasing power, my dollars, because my dollars speak just like my voice speaks. When I started aligning my purchasing power with my values and spending my money on the things I wanted to see in the world, I really felt not only like 120% of myself, because I felt like I was doubling down on my voice, but I feel that I helped to change the Titanic. So now when I go to buy shoes, I say, show me your vegan leather section. And if they say we don't have a vegan leather section, I say, well, I got money to spend. So if you want to find the vegan leather shoes for me in the store, we can talk and let's cha-ching. But if you can't, I'm heading out.
You know what I did? I had so many shoes and so many bags and so many clothes that I said to myself, I'm going to keep what I have, because why am I going to throw this out? I have good shoes. I'm going to keep them. And I have these bags. I have these clothes. And I found that I still wear a lot of the shoes that I had. Some of the bags that I have, I'll still use. The coats that I had, I couldn't wear them anymore. I couldn't. There was something about it that I just couldn't. And even some of the shoes I had to get rid of, and some of the bags I had to get rid of. I kept like the minimal. You know what I mean?
I've kept the ones that are good conversation starters. So I have this pair of red leather boots that I got in Nicaragua, of course, before I was vegan. Everybody comments on them. Everybody loves them. And I love to wear them with dresses. So they're like, the boots stand out even more. And then it's a conversation starter. I always say, I love these boots. I would never buy them today because they're not vegan. And I'm a vegan. And now I know that I have the option and I can buy vegan boots. I would never buy these again, but thanks, aren't they cute?
Yeah. And so sometimes I will. I'll take a picture with a bag or something, or I'll have some design or something, and I'll post a picture, and people will come at me and be like, "Oh, you're wearing a leather something." And I'm just like, okay, back off first of all.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Well, back off. But that's. And I always explain, it's like you can do that, and that I think that's what turns people off. You can hold on to the things that you have, and if you decide that you want to that you don't want to change your complete lifestyle at first, and you just want to change your diet first, do that, because it's a lot for people. I decided that I want to hold on to a lot. At first, I held on to everything that I had. And then I decided I don't feel comfortable wearing my coat with a fur trim. I'm never going to wear this. Why am I holding on to it? I gave it away. I am never going to feel good wearing it.
Fur. Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. And shout out to the state of California, which has banned the sale of fur as of 2023. I do love you, California. Thank you for leading the way there. We talked about it a little bit, but maybe if we could just sort of concisely, I know Richard said he saw some movies, then he was like, okay, I'm not going back. But I don't know if there was really specifically like a day that you remember, because I have a very day of like a conversation that happened and I was vegan that moment in the conversation. Do either of you have a memory of like, zing, I will never go back? The actual moment you went vegan.
No, for me, it was very gradual. It was gradual. Thing. It was like dominoes falling. And it happened over, I'd say, over a period of 6 to 8 months, where one thing led to another conversation about another thing. And little by little, I started to just eliminate to the point where I was down to being.
Well, I remember that you phased fish out last.
Yeah. I was a pescatarian for years.
You were a vegetarian, and then you started eating fish a little bit. And then when we went into the whole plant-based vegan thing, you were still having fish a little bit. And then you watched Blackfish.
Yeah, which is really not even
I know.
It's really a documentary that's not about veganism or it's about the cruelty of the whale industry, right? And being whales being kept in captivity in SeaWorld and all that nonsense. And there's a scene which he's talking about, because I've mentioned this. We were watching it because we are animal lovers, and there was a scene where they capture a baby orca, and the family, or at least the
pod
family, the pod wouldn't disperse, and you could hear them audibly crying, wailing, as they say, right? Yep. And it's a very emotional scene for most people who have the slightest bit of, heart beating in their chest. But for me, I'll tell you exactly what happened. We saw that scene, and it's very disturbing, and it's very sad. But my takeaway was different, which was in that moment, because my heart broke for this, and for my whole life, I would never eat a whale. I would never eat a dolphin.
Right.
I ate salmon.
Right.
And that was the moment for me that I went, who am I to say that the family or the pod of salmon didn't do the same thing when the fish that I ate on my plate last night was caught? And that was the moment that I went, I'm done. I can't ever eat again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Daisy, have you had a moment like that? I think those moments, those individual, unique moment in time when the world kind of stops turning for you, they're very powerful. Daisy, is there something like that for you?
Many, many years ago, and you've heard this story before, I went on a fishing trip with my family. We were in Mexico, and my dad we rented this boat, and he was fishing, and we're all just very excited. And it'd been a few hours, and all of a sudden you hear the zzz, and he caught something. And everybody's like, oh, and we were all really excited. And it was something big because he was really struggling. What was the fish that I said? It was a marlin. So we didn't know it was a marlin. But after about 45 minutes, you see off in the distance, really far off in the distance, this big, big, big fish jumped up. And everybody was like, wowed, and we all were like, oh my God, wow, and somebody went, it's a marlin, very excited. Everybody got so excited. Well, cut into like 2 hours later, my dad is sweating and still fighting with this fish 2 hours into it, and people are still very excited. We're all really excited. As this fish got closer and closer to the boat, he's now jumping, and as he's jumping closer, you see the struggle in this giant, beautiful creature. You're now seeing him fight for his life. Right. The closer he got to the boat, the more I was rooting for the fish instead of dad. Now, in one of those times that he got closer to the boat, not only did he jump up, but other fish were jumping up along his side. I'm getting emotional just talking about it. So, and one of those times I went downstairs and I bawled my eyes out. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, we're doing it all wrong. Like, this isn't a sport. Like, this is not fun. You're not seeing the struggle of this animal. Like, they have feelings. Any creature that fights for its life for hours like this, so hard, and you're just doing it for what? Like, for fun?
Yeah. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Why? Why are we doing this? At that moment, I thought, why are people fishing? I didn't make the connection with everything else, but I thought to myself, why do people fish? Why do you do this?
Yes.
That was a big connect for me.
And how could there be any joy to hurting something else that's so clearly, as you say, struggling for its life and has family, so clearly has a sense of community? And I'll just take this opportunity to say, if you think anything that you're eating has some humane certified label on it, please know that there is no humane way to kill something that doesn't want to die. So that's marketing, and that's just cha-ching business that is not connected to the truth at all. Thank you both for telling me those things. Now, here are the quickie questions. I swear, these really are the quickie ones. Do you have maybe you're having a bad day? Some people have had some of those, a string of those during COVID times. Is there one phrase that either you say together or maybe you say separately to yourselves to get yourself back on track? You're having a bad day, kind of in a bad mood. What do you say to get yourself right back in the game? Richard?
I need a drink.
I like how you roll.
Yeah, pretty much that's
it.
Well, that's a phrase we can all get behind. Okay, so we talked about being healthy, and of course you guys are, I see you out there hiking and doing your stuff, and you cook at home, already a huge step to being healthy. But when you go to town and you do have that junk food, what's your favorite vegan junk food?
Veggie Grill.
Ooh.
Good. Yeah, usually a good veggie burger.
Yeah. Okay. How fun. How wonderful. Okay. So I want to point people to richardmarx.com. If you go to, I think it's the news section, there's a 50-second clip of Richard on the beach explaining when he went vegan and why he would never go back. So it's a very fun video. So you just go to richardmarx.com and you can find that for sure. Daisy, I'm going to tell everybody they have to stay tuned. You and I are going to cook for people, and we're going to bring that Cuban community right along with us. The Cubans and Sicilians, they're going down. They're going vegan. We've said it here. I want to thank you both for all that you do, for just being willing to talk about this, for setting such great examples, for caring about people, the planet, and animals, and for doing it in such a loving and kind way. And of course, you bring us your art. You both bring us your art. Daisy, by caring about the clothes that we wear and bringing us compassionate fashion, I'll say. And then Richard, for all the joy and all the babies, I guess, you've made. You are responsible for so many babies. So
I try. I do my best.
You do a great oh no. I think they've gone away. And I think they accidentally hit the wrong button. You saw Richard trying to get rid of a phone call there. Okay, folks, that might be, in fact, the end of the interview. My name is Elizabeth Alfano. This is the Awesome Vegans interview series, influencer series, where I do try to bring people who can help by showing by example the lives that they lead and bring their stories to the vegan forefront. It's always great to share these mainstream people. Everybody knows Daisy Fuentes. Everybody knows Richard Marx. They've, sung Richard Marx's song probably for decades now. And then you think, oh yeah, that guy that I love, that I hear on the radio, he's vegan. So please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places. My website, elizabethalfano.com. It's the Awesome Vegans Influencer Series. And of course, I also do the Plant-Based Business Hour. Thanks for being with me, everyone. And I will be back tomorrow, 1:00 p.m. right here on Jane Unchained. It's Elizabeth Alfano. Tomorrow's going to be the Plant-Based Business Hour. This has been the Awesome Vegans Influencer Series. Bye, everybody.